What's going on, college hoops heads? This is another weekly live stream on the Center Hub's YouTube channel and Twitter page as I'm trying to retweet this here. My name is Stephen Bagell. I'm your host this evening, alongside, as usual, Conrad Pascual and Andrew Schaeffer. Andrew and I had the pleasure of, on Black Friday, we were at MSG covering UConn and Illinois. You could check out Dan Hurley's presser. You could check out Brad Underwood's presser. You could check out Andrew's and my live post-game recap at the Center Hub _BB on YouTube. I was at the Cathedral Classic yesterday, a 3-day event at the Palestra. I had the doubleheader to see Hofstra and Merrimack, and then Penn and LaSalle in a quasi Big Five matchup. You could see the recap I did with Jake Copestick and Riley Frayne post-game as well on the Center Hub's YouTube page at the Center Hub _BB. And today I was at Trenton for Jersey Jam, which is Princeton versus St. Joe's. With that said, Conrad, Andrew, how are you guys doing today?
Excellent. You know, a lot of great hoops this past week. I myself got to cover UCLA versus Cal on Tuesday for the Empire Classic. That was a lot of fun. We'll probably recap that a little bit later. But yeah, you know, I mean, now is I don't know. I feel like this week's kind of like I don't want to say like the real unofficial real start to the season, but this is where, you know, like even if it's non-con, it's like, you know, you're actually getting, you know, real legitimate, you know, postseason contenders squaring up against each other.
And what I'll say is typically the week after Feast Week sometimes is a little bare in terms of matchups because like you just went through like a gauntlet of a schedule. But we have the ACC SEC challenge this week. We have Big Ten play starting. They play a couple conference games before they then play a couple more non-con before that happens. For scheduling purposes, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it is what it is. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm good. As you mentioned, we covered UConn, Illinois at the Garden on Black Friday. It was a good game. Had a really good time, you know, recording everything, and you guys should all go watch it on the YouTube channel. We spent a lot of time doing it, and another week down. It was a great week of hoops, like Conrad said, including Cal's upset win over UCLA. There's more to come this week. Tuesday night's got a great slate of games. I'm sure we'll get into it later. And I'll be at St. John's Ole Miss on Saturday, so hopefully that game turns out to be good.
Yeah, and Saturday is, of course, the Big Five Classic, which is a triple header at Xfinity Mobile Arena. And, yeah, well, we still need to see who wins between Villanova and Temple tomorrow to see who plays Penn in the championship game. Conrad, let's start with you. You covered Empire. I always get confused with Empire and Legends Castle. They're both ran by the same company, the Gazelle Group.
That's right.
But it was Cal versus UCLA. It was the Empire Classic.
Correct.
Okay, There you go. I covered both last year, so I'd mix up. They were both in Newark, New Jersey last year. So what did you see during that game where Cal upset UCLA? Any takeaways?
I mean, big takeaways for both programs. Obviously, you know, for Cal, for Mark Madsen, that's his first. That's Cal's first win against a ranked opponent. You know, during his head coaching tenure. I guess it is. Yeah, it was definitely. I guess. Well, technically, yes, it was an upset win for Cal. But again, depending on who you ask, Mark Madsen doesn't feel like it's an upset win. Mick Cronin absolutely feels like it's an upset loss for his program. It was just a tale of two halves. You know, I know we say that a lot, whether it's in college basketball, NBA, whatever, but it's just one of those quintessential games where the team that was coming from behind absolutely flipped the script after halftime, that team being Cal. In the first half, it's crazy. UCLA came out. They were definitely the more physical team. They had like the more visible sense of urgency. You know, they were getting all the loose balls. They were drawing loose ball fouls because they were like a little bit more tenacious on the offensive glass. Then after halftime, something just completely changed. The way Mick Cronin described it, it's like he believes his team is essentially soft. You know, I mean, he used every word other than soft, but he just basically said, the way he said is his team has a glass jaw.
Yeah.
That's how he described his team, right? That when they get pushed, they just don't know how to push back. They just take it. And Cal upped the intensity. They were absolutely playing with a greater sense of urgency in the second half. And there's just a number of storylines from this matchup. It's kind of weird. Like, if you think the way Mick Cronin was talking about his team, you would think they're like 2-5, right? As opposed to being like 5-2. But again, right? I mean, I think they justifiably have high expectations for themselves, but their star players are receiving a lot of criticism, and I think it's well warranted. You know, I mean, Donovan Dent has looked completely out of sorts. I think this is easily his worst game in a Bruins jersey. Eric Daly had some nice counting stats when all was said and done, but I mean, honestly, just watching it, he was very invisible at times. And for a guy who, you know, a lot of scouts were out there, let's be real, right? Given that he's a draft prospect, like, he pretty much no-showed until maybe midway through the third quarter, you know? So it's just really weird. But for Cal, you know, I know Andrew here, he can speak more about their program. He had an opportunity to interview Coach Madsen during the summer, but you definitely see an identity being formed. And I, you know, again, for me being from the Bay Area, it's great to see these programs being rejuvenated. I know I didn't cover Stanford, but, you know, just across the Bay, they're kind of having a nice start to their season. I'm sure it'll normalize once conference play starts, but still, you know, you start to see reason for optimism that, like, all these things the coaches have been saying in the offseason, it's not just kind of like, you know, blown smoke up your ass, right? I think they are actually trending in the right direction. So, yeah, it'll really be interesting to see how UCLA responds after this game, and likewise where Cal can really take this season.
Okay. Andrew, anything to add given you know, as Conrad said, spoke to Coach Madsen this offseason for the magazine, and I mean, is there any insight you could shed?
Yeah, I mean, when I spoke to Coach Madsen, he was, you know, first of all, he's one of the most positive humans you'll ever meet in your life. He was so positive, and he had me sold. I said this before, like, I really like his team. I think Steven, I know we've talked about it, you know, how I think we were two of the higher ones on Cal than, you know, most people expected. And, you know, like Chris Bell, I was obviously very familiar with. He went to Syracuse. I watched him play a lot. He's pretty streaky, but he was good against UCLA. I mean, Conrad can speak to it. He was very good that game. Now UCLA didn't have Tyler Bilodeau. That doesn't help. And Donovan Dent did get hurt during the game. But Dent has not played well, generally speaking, like Conrad said. Even if he was healthy, he wasn't playing well. You know, Xavier Booker was kind of a weird, you know, transfer. I didn't really understand the fit, even though I love his talent and his upside. But listen, you got to give Mark Madsen a lot of credit. You know, I mean, Bell played great in that game. I thought Day Ames was awesome. He was the Virginia transfer. He looked really good. And Cal, look, I mean, I think I had Cal picked, like, I don't know, 14th or 13th when I did the magazine. I don't remember exactly where I had them, but you know, that's a big win for them. I mean, like
Yeah.
Conrad said, it's the biggest win Madsen's had at Cal. Now, I agree with Conrad. You know, Madsen will say, well, it wasn't an upset win. It was an upset win. Okay. Cal has not done anything recently in the sport, probably since Jaylen Brown was there. So that was a huge win for them. I think it gets the players to buy in, the fans to buy in. Um, so I think it's big for them. And let's face it, the bottom of the ACC is bad. All right. When you look at Boston College, Pitt, Georgia Tech, I mean, it seems to not look very good. I think the door's open for Cal to, you know, maybe pull off a couple more surprising wins for their group. And for UCLA, look, it's like Conrad said, expectations are high. They're fourth or fifth best in the conference preseason, or third. I mean, they got to be up there. They're just not playing like it right now. And, you know, I think most coaches I think Mick Cronin would rather be bad now than in March. So I think he's just hoping this is just a blip, and, you know, hopefully they can get it right before they get in the conference play.
Andrew, let's pivot to UConn, Illinois again. You and I were both at MSG on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, my biggest takeaway was I think it's just more that game showed more of how good UConn could be at their peak rather than it being, a detrimental loss to Illinois. Like, Illinois got good shots, they just didn't go in most of the time in that game. So do you have any, takeaways from that game?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think UConn at their peak is a Final Four national championship team.
Yeah.
Caravan is a great leader of, an experienced player for them. We talked about it in the recap. Malachi Smith was awesome for them coming off the bench, the Dayton transfer. He looked really good. And Taris Reed played a week early. He was not supposed to play. He gutted it out. Um, so I think that game was absolutely more about UConn. I mean, they kept Illinois at arm's length. Illinois had shots. Like, Jurkovic had 3 open shots in the first half that he just didn't make. I mean, if Illinois had made half their open shots, Illinois could have won that game. They just literally couldn't make a thing. I know Brad Underwood called them out for being soft defensively, but honestly, I think it was more about the fact that they couldn't hit an open shot. I don't think they were that bad defensively.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, were they bad at times? Yes. Did UConn expose them? Yes. But UConn also got exposed defensively. Every time Illinois got in the lane, like Petrovic would get in the lane, and he would, like, that guy knows how to pass the ball. That was the first time I'd really watched him, but because he hadn't played much. He is good. He can move the ball. He gets in the lane. He's great in pick and roll. He's going to get those guys a lot of open shots. And Illinois has a lot of talent. I just think it's going to take some time. It's all new pieces. It just takes time, And they're going to be fine. They're going to be in the tournament. They have nothing to worry about. But yeah, I agree with you, Stephen. I think it was way more about what UConn was able to do than what Illinois couldn't do.
So, okay. I want to obviously talk about a lot of what transpired in Feast Week, specifically the players' era. Obviously, Battle for Atlantis happened as well, the Maui Invitational. Last week, when it was us three and John Ong, we basically broke down the entire ESPN Events Invitational adventure bracket, where the UC San Diego Fighting Conrad Pascual's, shout out Tritons, won the bracket. And I think, obviously, like Michigan, it'd be an overstatement to say UC San Diego helped themselves more than any team in the country. Because, one, they're in a one big league, so, like, it really doesn't matter. But, like, Michigan, obviously, like, that's going to be one of the main talking points on this episode, how dominant. They probably have the most dominant Feast Week ever, and we'll talk about that. But UC San Diego goes into Disney, beats Temple by 15, beats Bradley by 10, beat Towson by 14. That's 3 good basketball programs.
Yeah.
So, Conrad, I know we came on here and we all felt Liberty. I think we all had Liberty. We had Liberty over Conrad.
Yeah,
I know had Liberty over
two of us had Liberty. He had UC San Diego, and I think John had Liberty too. Actually.
Yeah. So, Conrad, anything to add from that bracket, the ESPN Events Invitational adventure bracket, where UC San Diego won, Liberty dropped 2 games, which was pretty surprising, given they're one of the more dominant mid-major teams. They lost to Bradley and Towson. Any takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, again, it would be easy to say that, like, Coach Allard is kind of just trying to recreate what Coach Olin had been doing, like last season, or perhaps like the last several seasons. But to be fair, or perhaps to be more honest, like, Coach Olin and Coach Allard, they built that program together. And I think they're both quick to acknowledge, right, that they couldn't have done it without each other. So, I mean, I think Coach Allard isn't just trying to recreate. He's trying to build upon the things that they've learned from the last several seasons. I think that's a large reason of why, even though with a new cast of characters, they seem to be clicking pretty quickly. With UCSD, I mean, again, it's funny. I was actually looking at, from our friends at CBB Analytics, I actually was looking at their full season shot chart. And it's like, they're an analytics darling, right? It's literally like all at the rim and all 3-pointers, a heavy emphasis, right? Like on the corners and everything like that. But realistically, when you look at it, this is one thing that I talked to Coach Allard in the summer about, was they acquired I think he's 6'10", 6'11", center, bull danged it from Portland. And I mean, I think a lot of people are like, okay, cool. You got like a rim runner, an interior presence, which he is. But really, what I asked Coach Allard in the summer was, I mean, will Dang It be trusted? Like, do they foresee him kind of actually facilitating some offense? And they run a lot of offense through him, right? Whether it's like in the low post or at the top of the key. And that's what I'm saying. That's why they're getting like all like these ideal optimal shots, because they can swing the ball across the court, right? Without having any like passes like intercepted. So it'll really be interesting because they, again, just like kind of like last season, they have like this interesting mix of complementary talent that seems to just match up really well within their conference. So I think that's definitely a good confidence boost for them. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing how they match up well, because I think, not in this tournament, but Santa Barbara, Irvine, they're kind of starting to find their rhythm now. So it'll definitely make for some good basketball in the Big West.
So that covers the ESPN Events Invitational. I'm going to say players that are for last is the last thing we recap. Battle for Atlantis. I don't want to talk too much about it because, spoiler alert, in Andrew's and my weekly Last Week in College Basketball piece, we are going to be talking about Vanderbilt as one of the teams, as one of the biggest winners this week. They obviously win Battle for Atlantis over a team Conrad covers in St. Mary's. I don't even think it was really a detrimental, loss to St. Mary's as much as it was Vanderbilt, who is now the number one team in KenPom in the SEC. I think this is more about Vanderbilt being that good than anything detrimental to St. Mary's. But that was a good bracket. VCU's good. USF is good. Virginia Tech obviously has Nicholas Abdallas, excuse me. Colorado State, Wichita State, and Western Kentucky. That was a very competitive bracket. That, and then Maui, obviously. We saw USC win. Chad Baker-Mazara actually became the first ever player to win the Maui Invitational twice. Fun stat, he did it back-to-back years. So, Andrew, any takeaway just in general from Battle for Atlantis? Again, I don't want to give too much away. That's already not going to be in our weekly piece. But anything just pertaining to Battle for Atlantis, other than just Vanderbilt's incredibly good. And, again, nothing detrimental to St. Mary's. And I already forget the other one we were talking about. Battle for Atlantis and someone jog my memory. Maui, yes. See, is this that bad? That's this what the Maui Invitationals come to? That I forget who I'm talking about in the middle of a live stream?
I guess.
I mean, there are a lot. There's a lot now.
I guess. Yeah. Look, Vandy. Last year, remember Vanderbilt was a team that kind of overachieved. I mean, nobody saw what Mark Byington was going to do in year one, and I think he's just showing that he's doing it again for real. And listen, they've earned the right to be number one in KenPom. I mean, I know Alabama's looked good, Tennessee's had their moments, but I mean, Vandy just beat St. Mary's, who's really good. Conrad covers them regularly. I mean, St. Mary's has looked really good up until that game. They beat Virginia Tech or VCU or whoever they beat in the top. I think it was VCU. Vandy's good. I mean, Duke Miles has looked really good. The Oklahoma transfer, McLaughlin. I mean, there was a piece done on the center hub for McLaughlin. Look, I said this to Stephen offline. I think this guy needs a bigger job. No disrespect to Vandy. This guy has done a remarkable job. I mean, he took JMU to the NCAA tournament. They beat Wisconsin. I was there at Barclays Center when they did it. And then he goes to Vandy. They make the tournament last year, and this year they're going to make it again. And they might even be a top 4 protected seed, which is crazy to think about at Vanderbilt. I mean, that probably hasn't happened. I don't know the last time that's happened. Probably at least 15 years since that's happened.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done a remarkable job. He might be the National Coach of the Year frontrunner right now, which is kind of crazy to think about. I mean, just what he's done. He deserves a ton of credit. I'm going to be honest, I really didn't see his roster being this good this early. I as much as I like McLaughlin, I liked Washington, the kid they picked up from Carolina. I didn't know who their best player was going to be coming into the year. I just had no idea. And he's gotten them to gel. And like Steven said, Atlantis was a competitive field. Considering the players that took most of the good teams, I actually think Atlantis did a very good job putting together a decent field. And I think Vandy should be ranked. They should be a highly ranked team. And frankly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think they're one of the favorites to win the SEC.
So I'm going to steal a stat from Ryan Hammer. I guess I'm not stealing it. I can give him credit. But either way, he tweeted after Vanderbilt's big win against St. Mary's, in Randy Bennett's 25 years at St. Mary's, the 96 points is the most the Gales have given up in a regulation game, and only the second time a team broke 90 versus them in regulation.
It's insane.
So 25 years. They've only given up 90 points twice, St. Mary's under Randy Bennett.
Thank you, Ryan Hammer, for that stat, which I am going to reference when I interview Coach Bennett at the next game, the next home game.
But yeah, so like that, I preface that to say, like, again, crediting St. Mary's for how incredibly good they are and how incredibly steady they are, but also how elite this Vanderbilt offense could be. And is, rather.
Yeah, I mean, they put up 105 against Central Florida like 3 weeks ago. They just put up 96 on a team that's only given it up, once over 90 in 25. That's insane. I mean, Randy Bennett, I said it. Randy Bennett, Conrad knows this. Randy Bennett is one of the best defensive coaches in the country. Like, it's not even a question. And for Vanderbilt to do what they did is remarkable.
Okay, so then let's pivot to the Players era. There's a couple big winners. Obviously, Michigan had just about the most historic feast week of any team ever in an MTE. Here's some more stats, you guys. I apologize. I heard this on the IOM College Basketball Podcast, so I don't know who originated the stat, but shout out to Madden Orlando and Gary Parrish of CBS Sports. Michigan is the first team to win two games in a row against ranked competition by 30 or more ever in the history of college basketball. Okay, that's stat number one. Stat number two, fourth time ever a ranked team beat another ranked team by 40-plus points. So first time ever to win back-to-back games against ranked competition by 30-plus, and the fourth team to ever beat a ranked opponent by 40 or more. After that Alabama game, that first day in Players Era, it was like conceivable to, even probably after the second game for Gonzaga, it was conceivable to say Gonzaga might be the best, most dominant team in the nation thus far. Michigan mollywopped them. Like, literally, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And Michigan is a team where, they went to overtime with Wake Forest. They beat TCU by only a couple points. I'm pulling up now. Like, Michigan was a team that I was downgrading in my top 75 because they beat Wake Forest by 1 in overtime. That doesn't look so bad. That win, looks better because Wake Forest actually seems like a potential tournament team. They beat TCU only by 4, and TCU, we'll talk about them as well. They had a great week. But then, Michigan I was a little shaky on. They were 4-0, but they had those 2 questionable wins. Then they beat San Diego State by 40, beat Auburn by 30, beat Gonzaga by 41. I think even me saying the most dominant MTE performance ever might be an understatement. That's how incredible what Michigan did was. Again, going into the Michigan game, Gonzaga beat Alabama by 10 and Maryland by 39, and we already know they beat Creighton earlier, Oklahoma, Arizona State, so on and so forth. And Michigan just killed Gonzaga. Like, literally, that's the best way. Like, they literally mollywopped them.
Yeah.
Michigan, obviously, we're talking about. Kansas went 3-0. Iowa State went 3-0. They both had great player era.
That's right.
Players era tournament, player era festival. Matchups. Iowa State beat St. John's by 1, beat Creighton by 18, beat Syracuse by 31, and then Kansas also went 3-0. They beat Notre Dame by 10, Syracuse by 11, and Tennessee, who had just been in Houston, by 5. So those are probably the three most impressive teams. Tennessee might be up there as well. I know they lost to Kansas, but again, they beat Houston. So, Conrad, what is your overall takeaway from Players Era?
I think both Andrew and John had kind of alluded to this in our last episode. With the outlook of Michigan is, again, we saw the opponents they went up against. You just said, right? Like, for example, Gonzaga and all them. You have all these different kinds of front courts, different builds, right? Different kind of skill sets. Some are more perimeter oriented. Some have like kind of like the traditional twin towers. How would Michigan's front court match up against them? And my God, not only did they pass the test against every opponent, I mean, as you guys said, they mollywopped them. And that's the thing, right? I mean, like, when they go big, sure, Yaxel plays the three simply because he has the most ball skills. But I mean, like, it's, for example, like Morris Johnson Jr. We call him a power forward only because he's 6'9", but realistically, I mean, he's 6'9", he's 250. He is absolutely a center. And so you saw it against, for example, like against Gonzaga. Their opponents had no advantage. They didn't have the physical advantage, like any like additional physicality down low. They didn't have any particular like speed advantage on the perimeter. A lot of optimism for Michigan moving forward, because the more they start to understand, how to maximize those different kind of combinations, sometimes maybe Mara has to sit a little bit longer or essentially come off the bench. They've kind of done that at times, as long as everyone's bought in, they could absolutely go. And, I kind of said it like, not necessarily sarcastically about Cadeau, but I was like, well, it's kind of like an analytics darling at times, right? He'll get himself to the free throw line and he has a great assist turnover ratio. But man, I mean, it's kind of reminding people why he was such a highly touted, recruit, during his freshman year. And I don't know, man. I think they might just have enough, like I think we can go on and on about all their front court players because each of them bring something unique. But I think Cadeau just, again, might really be like that stabilizing force that they need, who in turn can kind of take them over the top. So that'll be interesting. But other than that, from those other teams, Houston is, we know they're a fantastic defensive team. The question has always been, especially with their front court players, can you do enough? Can you do just something remotely consistent offensively, right? To be able to, again, be on the court, justify the minutes you are on the court to do the things you do so well defensively. I think this is kind of one of the first times they were like kind of pushed outside of their comfort zone. It'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting because then that puts a lot more pressure on like their young guys to be able to contribute offensively. Young guys, say, for example, like Chris Senak, right? It's just something to continue monitoring. I know it's still relatively early enough in the season, but at a certain point, it kind of changes where, okay, what you give us is like an added boost as opposed to, no, we absolutely need you to give us a certain baseline amount of production in order for us to continue being competitive against the other like powers, across the league.
Andrew, anything to add on Players Era, just in general? Again, any other teams we mentioned or any other team you think that should be talked about?
Well, I mean, Michigan, like Conrad said, I mean, Michigan was the story. I mean, I picked Michigan to go to the Final Four before the year started. I mean, I love Dusty May. I think he's one of the top 10 coaches in the country. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the Sunherd group chat about Ade Mara. It's been well documented. But he's looked good. I got to give him credit. He's looked good. I'm a big Yaxel Lendabor guy. I have been for a while. I got to be honest. I think the story from Players Era is the Big 12. I mean, just what they were able to do. I mean, they went 10-2 in the Players Era, and that's crazy. Their two losses were Baylor to St. John's and Houston to Tennessee. Those were the two losses. Otherwise, Kansas went 3-0, Iowa State went 3-0.
And even the teams outside of Players Era, Colorado, TCU both had great weeks as well in the Big 12.
Yeah, so I'm writing this up for the recap. Just how dominant the Big 12 has been. I think I wrote they played 35 games this week. They went 28-7, which is just crazy. And just how good they're playing. Like you said, Colorado, TCU, Oklahoma State beat Northwestern. The Big 12 is looking like the best conference in the country right now. And the metrics are saying that. I obviously being a bracketologist, I pay attention a lot to all the data parts of the sport. And the resume metrics are all saying that the Big 12 is the best conference right now at the moment. Now, obviously, that can change. But the Big 12, by far, I think, is the biggest winner this week in players' own.
And we're coming off a year. We're going into last season, and maybe even this time last year, everyone was anticipating the Big 12 being the best conference in the sport.
Yeah.
And then obviously the SEC ended up getting 14 bids. But we're only a year removed from like the Big 12 supposedly being the best conference, for what that's worth.
And keep in mind, Texas Tech has not even played well.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's a team that almost lost to Wyoming today.
Yeah.
And like when they get going, maybe they're too reliant on JT Toppin, potentially. But I mean, that's a team that's not even playing well, and the league is looking good. So I think that's a great sign for them.
So then do we have anything else to recap, or do we want to move on to preview this upcoming week?
Just real quick, is there, I'm sure I could look it up, but maybe you guys have heard. Is there any update about Darren Peterson?
So I know obviously he missed the 3 games of players error. Last I had heard was that they were going to reevaluate him, but my guess is I think he's got to come. I would think he's coming back this week. I would anticipate him coming back for UConn. I know how big that game is for Kansas. They're not beating UConn without Darren Peterson.
No, they're not. However, fellow, our TCH member, Wilco Martinez, he really highlighted, he did a great breakdown of Floyd Badunga's, progress, the progress he's made like individually. And it really showed because I was surprised at not how competitive they were, in these 2 games without Peterson, but again, how well the ball moved. And a lot of that was, again, they trusting Badunga to, kind of facilitate the offense at times. And this aren't just like simple DHOs. I mean, he's like making some nice, post entry passes, which kind of begs the question, why aren't you in the post? But still, it's okay. That's why I'm asking, because again, I know, again, other fellow TCH member, Caleb Mueller, he's very high on Kansas's potential. And I think right there, they kind of showed here in the players era tournament, they actually do can more than hold their own, so.
Yeah. And I think that's great for Kansas, right? Because when Peterson comes back, obviously he's going to be the guy, and we all know that, but to get the confidence going for Trey White and Melvin Council and Cole Rosario and Badunga is huge for Bill Self. Because now all those guys are like, okay, we can win without Peterson. Okay, maybe with Peterson, we can actually compete for the Big 12 like we're supposed to every year.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of confidence gained from that. And like you said, I did look at Wilco's breakdown. He did a fabulous job. And Badunga, I think, is maybe the most important player to their team that isn't like a high level. Like, he's so important for Kansas.
Yeah.
Because he's their only real rim protector on the team. They don't have anything else outside of him. So, Wilco did a fantastic job breaking it down.
To be fair, I was not high on Kansas coming into the year, but I did say during John and my Big 12 preview for One and Done, I said Kansas, I don't think is going to be, a top 4 or 5 team in the Big 12, which is rare territory for them. But I did say they had the makings of a good team in terms of having an elite point guard and an elite big man that we anticipated Badunga, picking out, really.
Yeah.
So with that said, okay, let's move on to this upcoming week. Tomorrow's a pretty light slate.
You don't want to talk about any of the other tournaments?
I mean, we can. Why? Which do you have one in mind?
That means Conrad had one in particular. Go ahead.
The one that the defending champions participated in and did not win.
TCU was a late invite to that, by the way.
Another Big 12 team that played well.
Yeah.
Jamie Dixon.
I think we need to talk a little bit about Florida. Just a little bit.
Okay. Lead the way.
No, I mean, again, like I think it's early enough again where they can course correct themselves, but I think a lot of the concerns that we, and I say we as in TCH, had about Florida being able to uh adequately defend their title.
Yeah.
I think those concerns are kind of manifesting. They're kind of coming to the forefront, specifically their backcourt. Boogie Flan, but more so Xavier Lee, they have taken a lot of criticism the last week or two, and it's well warranted. I mean, forget about the NIL. Gator fans are not going to forget about the NIL, but still, right? I mean, it's basically tantamount to going out and getting a free agent, but still, they were brought in for the sole purpose of, again, trying to not be a carbon copy of Walter Clayton, Will Richard, but to, again, produce some kind of offense, or have some kind of production from the backcourt. And man, it has been rough. And I think specifically, again, that game against TCU, where both, I mean, more so Lee than Flan, but really neither of them were effective at all. So I'm glad that they had a little bit of a bounce back there to close out that invite. When they were able to beat, Providence. It's good for like their morale. But again, moving forward, we had these questions, as you said, right? Like, could Vanderbilt end up being one of like the lead contenders in the SEC? Absolutely. You look at the rest of the SEC. When I wrote that piece, I was like, dude, like you could really make a case for a number of teams, whether it's like Kentucky or Arkansas, Tennessee. It's probably a lot more open than even optimistic fans of each fan base thought, to begin the season. And I think Florida having a lot of ambiguity, because I don't know, like, again, I think we're fans of Xavier Lee at the center hub. He will play better. I think we all believe he will. But again, what does that necessarily mean with regards to being able to establish themselves or maintain their position in the SEC? Because I don't know if there's any, solution or upgrade in-house. And again, this is not, the pros. You cannot just go out and get more players, at around like Christmas time. So it'll be interesting to see what Todd Golden has in store, because that was a rough watch. That was definitely a rough watch.
So I'm kind of hoping that the Providence game gives them some confidence going forward. Because Xavier and Lee played well in that game, at least on
Yeah.
the offensive end of the floor. So I'm hoping that that can help. I know Flan had 17 in that game. Like, I know Providence isn't what everybody thought they were going to be. Obviously, Providence has been one of the more disappointing teams. But anytime you can win by 12 over a Power Five opponent and get your backcourt to play that well, I think you got to take something out of it. Um, so I'm expecting Florida to gain some confidence. I know they're playing Duke on Tuesday, which is going to be a major challenge for them.
Yeah.
And they're going to get tested pretty quickly here. But hopefully Xavier Lee can continue to progress. It's going to take time. I mean, like we said, but when you lose Clayton, Richard, and Martin, it's going to be tough. I think Todd Golden knew that coming into the year, even though he may not have wanted to believe that. But um, it's definitely been a rougher road than I think he anticipated for sure. Um, but I just go back to TCU and what they've done. I just remember they lost to New Orleans in the early on, and people were writing them off. Um, to
Yeah.
beat Wisconsin, who I know hasn't beaten anybody to this point, and to beat Florida, I think Jamie Dixon deserves a lot of credit for getting his team back on track.
So, segueing off of that, Florida, obviously, as Andrew alluded to, plays Duke in the ACC SEC Challenge on Tuesday. That's a home game for Duke. Florida's actually 9.5-point underdogs, for what that's worth.
That's a big deal.
Other notable games, I'm looking, again, ACC SEC Challenge. Syracuse, Tennessee.
By the way, that spread is 5.5. If you don't pick Tennessee minus 5.5, I'm sorry. You've not like Tennessee should be at least 12 in that game, the way Syracuse is looking.
Oklahoma at Wake Forest, Texas A&M at Pitt. You have UConn, Kansas. I know that's not ACC, SEC challenge, but that's a great game on Tuesday. Georgia at Florida State, Missouri at Notre Dame, North Carolina at Kentucky is the other big one. We also have some Big Ten, as we said, conference games. USC at Oregon and Iowa at Michigan State. Those are obviously all noteworthy games. That's all on Tuesday. Virginia Tech, South Carolina is another ACC, SEC challenge. Monday, the only notable game, at least for me, is Temple at Villanova, because the winner that goes to the Big Five Classic Championship and will play Penn. So that's one worth noting.
Let me ask you guys a question while you're going. Like, are you, Conrad? You wrote the SEC obviously for the magazine. Are you more concerned about Florida, or are you more concerned about Kentucky?
Concerned in terms of like their postseason aspirations, or concerned like I'm afraid of them? Like,
No, I'm concerned in terms of expectations. Like, who's going to have a tougher time getting to where they want to get to, Florida or Kentucky? Just based on what we've seen, because they're both having concerns for sure.
I think, probably relatively speaking, I would probably be more concerned for Florida, for like what we just said a little bit earlier, in the sense that like I don't think like you could have like there's less sliver of hope in the sense that like there aren't any additional in-house solutions, right? So yes, you have to trust on your like, you know, your veteran players, more so Lee, to a lesser extent Fland, to kind of again tap into like the best version of themselves. But with Kentucky, I feel like Mark Pope has been reluctant to, you know, give his freshmen like really, really heavy usage, you know, against like high stakes situations, right? If they're going, you know, if it's like a game where like they're favored by like 30, okay, cool, right? Jasper Johnson, Malachi Moreno, they're playing like 30 plus minutes, right? I think he's already inserted Moreno into the starting lineup. And I think while Jaden Quintons is out, I think that's probably the best strategy moving forward, or that's the best idea. But I think even like Jasper Johnson, I think they may need to like lean into them. I think he needs to really kind of start expanding the roles for his given freshman, because I think the guys that they have, like, they're good at what they do, but I don't think they're capable of really playing outside of like their comfort zone. Right. Like, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with them. But again, all the more reason why I think like it might be a lot more wide open than we probably maybe have expected, you know, during the off season.
Right. Sorry, Steve. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. I don't know. I just still envision Florida coming together. Like, a lot of it, I think, does depend on Kentucky and Jalen Lowe coming back, just because I think they severely lack playmaking. And obviously, Jaden Quaintance hasn't played a game for them yet. We don't know when he's going to play.
Yeah.
So I understand Conrad's point in terms of Kentucky may still have further reinforcements coming, as opposed to Florida, who we've seen what they have. I just think this Florida team is too talented to, you know, be this bad. Again, like, they could be 5-3 for all we know if they lose to Duke on Tuesday, which they're projected to. I still think I'm pretty confident in Florida finding a way to figure it out, though.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting because they're both really happy.
I don't feel good about, like, if I have to like oversimplify it, like, I don't feel good about Florida's shooting. Like, it could be that basic. Like, I don't know, man.
Well,
like, nobody like is looking at Fland as like, yeah, man, that guy's a knockdown shooter.
Right.
Lee is very streaky.
Right.
Han, Condon, they're cool when it's like an aspect of their game, not when they have to be exclusively stretch bigs. So that's why I'm like, oh man, I don't know.
Wednesday's games. We have, again, ACC, SEC Challenge, Louisville at Arkansas, Clemson at Alabama, LSU at Boston College. What else do we have here? Northwestern and Wisconsin has a Big Ten matchup. Indiana at Minnesota, or Minnesota at Indiana is a Big Ten matchup. NC State at Auburn, SMU at Vanderbilt, Virginia at Texas, Mississippi State at Georgia Tech. I'm pretty sure that rounds out the ACC SEC Challenge. And we do have UCLA at Washington for a Big Ten game on Wednesday.
It's going to be huge.
Thursday, we have a really fun...
If UCLA loses that and Steinbach doesn't play,
oh my God. Mick's going to go nuts if they lose that game. Oh my gosh.
Thursday, we have a fun mid-major matchup with Utah State, who is 7-0, at USF, who's way better than the 4-4 record. USF actually is scheduled pretty difficult. They just won 1-2 in battle for Atlanta, so that represents 2 of the 4 losses. That's pretty much the only game of note on Thursday, I would say. Friday, we have Gonzaga versus Kentucky. That's a neutral, isn't it, Andrew? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think so. I think
it might be a semi-home according to Ken Pom for Kentucky, but Gonzaga and Kentucky. We have Samford and VCU's a fun one. Even South Alabama and ETSU has some appeal. UAB at Drake has a little bit of appeal. And obviously Cincinnati and Xavier Young are neutral, those two being rivals and playing each other every year. So, Notre Dame at TCU is another one on Friday.
Yeah, the Gonzaga-Kentucky game is in Nashville, just so you know.
Okay. Saturday, Iowa State at Purdue might be the game of the week. Even though we have like Duke and Florida and some other great matchups, Iowa State at Purdue. Like, Iowa State was so dominant in Players Era. They're incredibly good. Them against Purdue. Then you also have Duke at Michigan State. Both those games tip off at noon. So everyone with YouTube TV, make sure you have your quad boxes going. Both those games are at noon. Or CBS and Fox, you might not be able to quad box both of them, actually. Because of politics, of course. Dayton at Virginia. Louisville at Indiana. Ohio State and Northwestern in a Big Ten matchup. Marquette at Wisconsin. Marquette desperately needs that win after losing Oklahoma. Like, Marquette's basically cooked at this point, but any shot they want to have, they got to win at Wisconsin.
Yeah. No,
Boise's
been terrible.
The Big East in general has been rough.
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about it when we were there Saturday. I mean Friday. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, it's UConn. St. John's hasn't done anything against high-level opponents.
How many teams in the Big East do you feel comfortable saying they're going to be a tournament team at this moment?
2.
Oh.
And it might be it's closer to 1
it's 1 with UConn. Yeah, obviously. I'm pretty comfortable saying St. John's is going to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's why I would put 2. But, right, if we're going based off the resume at the moment, yeah, it's UConn.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the rest of them I don't know. Like, I like what Seton Hall and Butler have done. I just need to see. I just don't trust it. You know, and Georgetown had their moments, and then they lose to Dayton. So it's like I don't know. And the rest of the Big East has been a failure, to be honest.
Other games on Saturday, Akron at Tulane is a fun game. Seton Hall at Kansas State could be fun. Baylor at Memphis is another fun one. Like, Saturday, we don't have, other than the ACC SEC Challenge this week and a couple Big Ten games, it's a slow week, like I said, typically it happens after Feast Week, but Saturday is a pretty great slate. As I said,
Saturday features Iowa State versus Purdue.
Yes.
Yes, Conrad. We talked about that when we weren't paying attention.
Yeah. No, but I'm curious. You kind of like said it in passing, but what are your thoughts on Iowa State lately?
I think they are incredibly good, and I think they looked very good in Players Era. The fact that they didn't get to play for any money shows how dumb the format of Players Era.
I wrote about that in the recap for this week. I couldn't, like, they got so screwed in Players Era. I mean, they should have been there instead of Kansas, playing Tennessee. And listen, when they played Syracuse, they should have played Alabama. Syracuse should have been playing Maryland. That's what should have happened. Like, Iowa State Syracuse was never going to be close. And I love Iowa State with Jefferson. That trio there, Jefferson, Monsilovich, Lipsy. I mean, Monsilovich is one of the best shooters I've seen in a while. He can light it up. That dude can light it up. I mean, and Jefferson, he almost had a triple double, I think, in one of the games of Players Error.
Yeah.
He's looked really good. Do I think they're going to beat Purdue and West Lafayette? No, I don't. Do I think they're going to keep it close? Yes, because TJ Otzelberger he always gets the most out of his groups all the time.
Yeah.
The only thing they haven't done is they haven't been to an Elite Eight since 2000. That's the one step they have to take. And they can do that this year with the talent they have. Like the freshman kid who came in for Lipsy, who played for him, was great. I really like their team. I think they can win the Big 12.
Joshua Jefferson.
Thank you. That's why I asked you, because I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I don't know.
absolutely believe they can. They absolutely can. They have a great coach. They have a great culture. They have 3 guys who have been there, done that. With those 3 guys, the freshmen looked good. They defend the hell out of you all the time. I think the one question sometimes Iowa State has is offensively they can get a little stuck. But when you have Lipsy and you have this other freshman, whose name is escaping me right now, but when you have those 2 guys, yeah, there you go. When you have those 2 guys who can move the ball, make plays, and there's not as much pressure on Jefferson and Monsilovich to do that. Jefferson can sit in the post and do what he did at St. Mary's, which I know and Monsilovich, all he has to do is sit on the perimeter. He can make literally every time he shoots the ball, and he gets going in.
That's why I was asking, because again, I'm glad that you highlighted the impact that the freshman duo is having, because I've never seen Momcilovic so much in motion, like in a good way. Not that he was ever lazy, but like, whoa, okay, there's like a different level of movement shooting from him, and he's 6'8" and everything like that. So that's why I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I feel like these they're on the up and up, man.
I think I said in my top 75 weekly recap or weekly article last week that Monsilovich, Joshua Jefferson, and Taman Lipsy are by far the most underrated big 3 in the entire sport. Like, by far. Because, like, that's an incredibly good top 3 that just, like, does not get enough national attention.
Hence why I wanted to bring it up. I
wish John was on this episode. John actually had Iowa State as his preseason number 1 last year.
Wow.
Because of how high is on Otzelberger and what they do as a program.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say Houston has a lot of competition this year to win this league. This is the toughest road for Houston in the league that I think it's been.
Houston might be, the 3rd best team in the conference right now?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Conrad referred to it. Like, they're just young.
Yeah.
Like Sinak, Flemings, they're young. I mean, they have the 2 guards. We know about Sharp and Uzan. Yeah, but like, they're young. And it's just going to take time. But like Arizona's look great. Iowa State's look great. Kansas took care of business at Players Error. BYU's look good outside of, they nearly beat UConn in Boston. Like, it's a tough league. It's brutal for Houston. Yeah. I think Houston could be in trouble to not win the league this year. It's absolutely a possibility.
So then to recap finishing Saturday, there's the Jerry Colangelo Classic. I wish my son had a bunch of burner accounts so I could get a college basketball tournament named after me. But that's in Arizona. I think Center Hub contributor Maxwell Geiger will be on scene for that doubleheader. It's Oklahoma State and Grand Canyon. And then it is Oklahoma and Arizona State. So 2 fun matchups. Andrew will be at Ole Miss at St. John's at MSG, like he already alluded to earlier. There's Florida State at Houston. There's Illinois and Tennessee in Nashville. That's really fun one. Wichita State and UNI is a super fun high-level mid-major matchup. Arkansas State and Little Rock, Santa Clara and New Mexico. Like, there's a lot of fun. And then, of course, there's Auburn at Arizona. That tips off at 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. So Saturday is a great day of hoops. I'm going to be doing, as I said, the Big 5 Classic triple header. But trust me, I will be tuned in for a lot of what happens on Saturday. Sunday, Missouri at Kansas. Texas Tech at LSU. 2, again, high majors. Texas Tech, I'm still high on. I know Andrew just said, they struggled a little bit. I had them as a Final Four pick. I'm not saying I'm going to double down on that with how they're playing, but I still think, there's that could. They did the same thing last year. Remember last year, everyone said, "Oh, Texas Tech didn't live up to the hype," and they ended up giving Florida, a very competitive game in the Elite Eight. They ended up figuring. I think they're just traditionally slow starters. San Fran at Mississippi State on Sunday. Towson at UCF. UNLV at Stanford has some appeal probably. Hofstra at Pitt, I think is actually a really fun game. Hofstra just won the Cathedral Classic. They went 3-0. Them and Penn were both 2-0 going to today, and Hofstra beat Penn by 17 in the Palestra. That defense is incredibly good. I had a chance to speak to head coach Speedy Claxton yesterday.
Hey.
I was interviewing him with Riley Frayne, friend of the Center Hub, and Riley from New York does a bunch of Hofstra games. He said that is as good of a mood as you will ever see Speedy Claxton in after a game.
Yeah.
Like, he was talkative, he was ecstatic, like just typical energy you may not get from him. So I think he knows how good his team is. Georgetown at UNC, Creighton at Nebraska, SMU at Texas A&M, and then North Texas at TCU is also a fun one. That wraps up Sunday.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's going to be a good weekend. I guess these teams are all, aside from like the ACC and SEC teams, taking breaks from like super, like they're coming home from Players Area or Maui or Battlefield Lanes, wherever they were, and now like they're going to take 4 or 5 days off and then have, like Purdue just won Baja Mar, beat the crap out of Texas Tech, and now they have, a week and a half until they have to play Iowa State. I know they played Eastern Illinois in between, but nonetheless. Yeah, you guys have anything to add before we sign off?
Is there any particular team that you're interested in seeing this upcoming week? Outside of the ones perhaps that we already mentioned?
Yeah, I'll go with Creighton. They've got to figure some things out. Look, losing Jackson McAndrew is a huge loss. I mean, when Stephen and I were at Big East Media today, that was the one guy that Greg McDermott really harped on.
He made preseason first team for the Big East, Jackson.
I know, and now he's out, and it's a big blow. And let's remember, they lost Ryan Kalkbrenner, and they lost Stephen Ashworth, and Greg McDermott had told me told us at Big East Media Day that, his defense was going to take a while to catch up to his offense. He had told us that. He knew that was the case. But now you lose Jackson McAndrew, and you have all these transfers like Harper from Howard, and you've got Nick Graves, and they look done. I mean, they look toast, Creighton. It's sad because they've been so good for so many years, and Greg McDermott's kind of in like his last year or two before he retires. And they play Nebraska, who I believe last year Creighton got smoked by Nebraska. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they lost to Nebraska last year.
They did.
Yeah, so I'm very curious to see how they respond after the way they struggled at Players Era.
Sounds good.
For me, I was going to say Iowa State, but Conrad said mention someone that we didn't talk about.
You say Iowa State.
Kansas has a huge matchup against UConn. We don't know if Houston's going to play or not, but I think that'll be a good measuring stick to see how legit they are after if they beat Tennessee and UConn back to back without Darren Peterson, I'm all bought in on Kansas.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, how could you not? Yeah, that's big. Oh,
I think the other team I would throw out there is Kentucky, just because they're going to play Carolina, and they play another big one. I think I don't remember, but
Kentucky is. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I don't remember, but bottom line, I mean, we just spoke about it, right? Like major concerns, obviously, no
Gonzaga.
UNC and Gonzaga Tuesday and Friday.
Those are huge tests for Kentucky. I mean, we're going to have to see them at some point. I don't know if Lowe's coming back. We don't know when Lowe's is coming back, if he's coming back at all. I have no idea.
This is what I'm saying, right? Like, that's why I was saying I think Mark Pope really does need to kind of, let the freshman loose.
He's got to let him go. Just let it go. Let him play. You don't listen. Jalen Lowe. I don't think Jalen Lowe's coming back. All right, that's my take on it. Quaintance, I think, will come back at some point, but even when he comes back, it's going to take him a while to get going. I think he's going to have to rely a ton on his freshmen, Colin Chandler, and all those kids. He's just going to have to let them loose, let them do it, let them make mistakes. It's going to happen. But I think you got to win one of those two games, and I think it's going to be the Carolina game. But you're not. I don't think you're beating Gonzaga the way they've looked at the Michigan game. So that Carolina game is going to be really fascinating for me Tuesday night.
Yeah, love it.
Are you taking Mary's, Conrad, or are we expecting Mary's to continue what they're doing? Are you concerned at all about?
In terms of a team that I'm actually, one team that's really piqued my interest, and I guess partly because I wrote the SEC, is LSU.
Yeah.
They're
yeah. I mean, I heard, all like the kind of like they were like kind of the coaching staff kind of gassing up Michael Nwoko during the offseason, right? Yeah. Mississippi transfer. And I mean, like, hey, dude, you decide to build an entire offense around him. Of course, his numbers are going to like skyrocket, right? But man, to maintain this level of usage and efficiency. Now, obviously, that's why I'm saying these next couple games are a good test. I don't expect him to like continue being like whatever he's been, like 85% at the rim, you know what I'm saying? But for a program that's been really down these last couple seasons, I don't know. I'm not saying I expect them to somehow snag a tournament bid. I don't know about that. That might be a little bit of a reach for this season. But as you guys just been saying, right, with all the other teams in the SEC, the guys, like all the teams that we thought would be in the mix, for like that top spot, a lot of these teams are kind of in a state of flux, so I'm wondering if these teams that like we didn't expect much from a team, maybe like LSU, because I had him, I think I had him like second to last, I think in the SEC. So yeah, I mean,
Eden Thomas is good.
No, he's good. UNLV transfer, he can play. I mean, I think the biggest thing with LSU is they haven't really played anyone, so it's kind of hard to judge. I mean,
that's why I'm looking forward to these upcoming matchups. I mean, beat Boston College. You got to beat Boston College.
Yeah, you got to win that game. Yeah, you got to win that game. Texas Tech's going to be a really big measuring stick.
That's what I'm saying. Too. Right.
And
it's not like they're a prolific offense. So let's see.
They're a team that has struggled. Like, if LSU finds a way to win that game against Texas Tech, I will take LSU seriously.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's kind of what they're searching for. And that's why I'm saying, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this. Yeah.
That was a good pick. I would not have thought to pick that one. That was a good pick.
Thinking outside the box.
That was a good pick.
Okay. This concludes this live stream, this episode of our weekly, previews and recaps for men's college basketball. Conrad, are you and Maxwell doing a women's live stream?
Yeah, tomorrow, with the updated AP rankings and everything like that, and like the women's slate of games tomorrow is pretty light, so it's probably a good time to go on.
Okay, so yeah, be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, you can follow us on our socials. Again, we have Dan Hurley, Brad Underwood's press conferences from the Illinois-UConn game on our YouTube channel. We have live recaps from day 2 of the Cathedral Classic, as well as a live recap from UConn, Illinois on our YouTube channel at the @CenterHub_BB. That's also our Twitter handle. So go check us out. You can follow me on Twitter at @the_NBAGel, NBAGELL. You can follow Conrad at CP3_777. Listen to the One and Done podcast. Listen to the Bird Rights podcast. Listen to the East Meets West podcast. Listen to the Indie Basketball podcast. You follow Andrew at Andrew S Hoops 2. Go follow him. Unfortunately, he lost the at Schaeffer.
It's my own fault. It's my own fault. My account was.
Well, either way, he deserves your follow. He's trying to rebuild that following back up. So please go support him. You can check out our work at thecenterhub.substack.com. I will have my weekly top 75 piece coming out on Wednesday. I'll probably have Andrew's and my last week in college basketball piece probably up on Tuesday morning at this point. Conrad will be contributing his thoughts on the game he covered, as we said, the UCLA and Cal game. Maybe we could Conrad to give some words on UC San Diego as well this week. That's to be seen.
Sure.
But okay, never mind. It's not to be seen. But otherwise, myself, Conrad, Andrew, we will talk to you guys as usual next week. Thanks for listening.
All right.